PTSD is delayed grieving. What is so confusing for people who suffer from PTSD is that in their mind, they've gone through the trauma without any major negative effects. But later, they start to have odd and disturbing symptoms. They are confused by this and believe they're getting worse. In reality, these very symptoms indicate that they're actually getting better. If the trauma had been less severe or environmental support greater, the symptoms would have occurred faster and in a milder form. The person would have talked out the stress and returned to homeostasis quickly. With PTSD, this normal process of dealing with stress and grieving has broken down. Oftentimes, it's not the original abuse that causes the most trouble, but the secondary abuse. If a person has been raped, which is tremendously abusive and an overwhelming shock, this could well cause PTSD in its own right. However, what might make the trauma even more difficult is if the person who has been raped went to the police station and was treated as if the rape were their fault. PTSD can also develop from those secondary abuses. To understand PTSD, one must understand that there are at least 3 brains in the human body and not just one. My belief is there is even a 4th brain in each and every cell of the body, and Candace Pert has gone a long way towards proving that fact. Candace Pert is the researcher who discovered the enkephalin system and endorphins. She postulates that this system is not only the natural opium production system for the body, but also a primitive brain, which is capable of experiencing and transferring feelings and also acts as an early warning web. She believes that this web of endorphins feelings constitute a highly evolved and intricate brain system. In a sense, each cell is composed of a primary primitive brain. Often, these brains work quicker than the logical part of the brain. All the cells in the body are connected and are capable of body memory, and therefore are all minute brains. We are most familiar with the human brain, which deals with rational thought and consists of the cerebral cortex and the prefrontal lobes. This part of the brain's thinking is linear and causal and allows a person to understand a situation cognitively. This is the conscious part of our brain and is the part that traditional psychotherapy or talk therapy is aimed at. Most people believe or think that if they just understand a situation, then they can change their behavior easily. It often works this way, but if the other brains are not cooperative, this supposition breaks down. The mammalian brain is an older, more primitive part of the brain, which consists of the limbic system, located in the middle section of the brain. This brain, which we share with all other mammals, is the part of the brain that manages and creates our feelings. This brain works differently than the logical human brain. It is primarily made up of chemicals called neurotransmitters that help us think and feel, though not necessarily on a logical basis. The reptilian brain consists of the medulla oblongata, which is located at the base of the skull. Humans and all reptiles have this brain in common. This brain manages non-conscious processes and instincts, keeping the heartbeat regular and fighting off infection. People don't have to consciously think about how to perform these functions because this part of the brain does it automatically. The mammalian brain and the reptilian brain make up a large part of our subconscious processes. The subconscious area of the brain is responsible for 85% of our thinking. Only about 12 or 15% of processing occurs in the conscious area. These two brains operate on the principle of operant and classical conditioning, which was originally discovered by Pavlov. Pavlov found that if he gave a starving dog some food, which was an unconditioned stimulus, the dog would salivate, and this would be considered an unconditioned response. An unconditioned response happens naturally when a certain stimulus is present. The reasons that dogs and humans begin to salivate when they perceive food is that their mouths emit enzymes that assist in breaking down the food, and they get a head start on digestion by doing this. If a bell is paired or presented with the food repeatedly, a conditioned stimulus status is acquired, which creates the conditioned response of salivation. Eventually, the bell alone will cause that salivation. That means that at some point, if a human being has been conditioned in this manner, their consciousness can be told that the bell will no longer bring them food, making the salivation pointless. However, the person will automatically salivate anyway at the sound of the bell because of the conditioning of these two primitive brains.